He won the Derby by a head and then decided to skip the Preakness. And now on Saturday, Golden Tempo is going to run it back versus Renegade. That's right. We have a Kentucky Derby rematch at Saratoga. Kelly Stewart here with Marco D'Angelo and Sean Alvarez of wagertalk.com. This is your 2026 Belmont Stakes preview. Quick housekeeping notes, Saturday, June 6th, post time is 7:04 p.m. Eastern at the Saratoga Racecourse. Remember, this is the third and final year at Saratoga before the new Belmont Park reopens in September. We've got a 9-horse field. We've got Renegade as your favorite. Golden Tempo running neck and neck with him, and of course, Chief Wallabee. As I mentioned, no Triple Crown is on the line because Golden Tempo decided to skip the Preakness. Preakness winner Napoleon Solo is not entered here. So this is the 8th straight year that we have had no Triple Crown shot at the Belmont. Marco, I'm going to go to you first here. Third year here at Saratoga, Belmont Park in the middle of a massive $455 million rebuild. It's going to reopen in September, headed back to Long Island in 2027. So this is the last time we get to handicap a race here for the Belmont at Saratoga.
Yeah, and Kelly, what you have is obviously the biggest difference since we had these 3 races at Saratoga instead of the Belmont is instead of this being the test of champions at 1.5 miles, it's been contested at the same distance that the Kentucky Derby was run at 1.25 miles. And that's the focus. And when we break this race down and get further into it, you're going to see we're going to be talking a lot about all of those horses that ran in the Derby and skipped the Preakness. And I know there was a lot of debate this year about, why Golden Tempo skipped the Preakness, same that we saw last year when Sovereignty won the Derby and skipped the Preakness. The fact that the third leg was the same as the first leg in distance-wise, horses, it was easier to make the skip because you're racing at a distance that you're accustomed to. The 1.5 miles is grueling, and it's the only time that most of these horses will ever run a race at 1.5 miles. So I'm excited about this year's Belmont. I think it's going to be a great race. And like I said, we're going to be talking heavily about the Derby horses that are back for the Belmont.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into those. Really quickly, Sean Alvarez, any notes here on this last race at Saratoga?
Yeah, I think the key thing to think about is, when Marco talks about the grueling 1.5 miles at Belmont, it's a much bigger and sweeping turns. We're getting a lot closer to that Churchill Downs track with Saratoga being at 1.8 miles. And, it's not necessarily as tight as, 3 weeks ago when Marco and I talked about, the turns at Laurel Park compared to Pimlico, but it is a little bit different. And that's, has a lot to do with why they're dialing this back. Also, we're not going to run the Belmont at 3 turns, but they also nicknamed the Saratoga racetrack the Graveyard of Champions for one reason, and that's mainly because once you're, get into horse racing, whether it's an owner, a trainer, or even a jockey, you circle any dates at Saratoga. Everybody wants to win at Saratoga, whether you, are kind of at the likes of Louisiana or California or even down at Gulfstream Park. Everybody ships up to Saratoga. So it's definitely a week of racing that actually is starting today while we're recording, all the way through the weekend and ending with the Belmont Stakes. And so I'm definitely excited to see these quality of horses run even a month before Saratoga opens for their summer meet. So definitely excited for this last rendition of the Belmont at Saratoga.
Very awesome stuff, guys. If you are looking to get on board with either Marco or Sean for the Belmont right now, wagertalk.com is going to give you $10 off using coupon code Belmont10. Now let's talk about the Derby rematch. We're going to get into Renegade Golden Tempo first. Marco, Renegade at the time of filming, 2-1 favorite. We know our guy Todd Pletcher and what we're going to get from one of the Ortiz brothers. Now, he got beat in the Derby by, I would say, about this much. Let's talk about that trip and how you think he's going to fare here at Saratoga.
Well, what we worried about going into the Derby and prior to post-position draw, Renegade was my top horse going into the Derby when I did my advanced preview of the Kentucky Derby. Then he draws post-position 1, and we know the history of post-position 1 in the Kentucky Derby. It's not good. And what happened? Well, it lived up to the curse because what we ended up seeing was when the gate opened, not one, not two, not three, 4 or 5 horses all decided to take a left-hand turn together. And it was a wall of horses that literally pushed Renegade into the rail. He was going to get away back of the pack, but not as far back as he ended up getting away. He got away 15th. So he had a lot of ground to make up. And getting smashed the way he did coming out of the gate, that can take a little bit of the air out of the horse and get him rattled, and he has to get settled. But he did get settled. And when he got settled, he started his move. In that last quarter mile, him and Golden Tempo basically came through the stretch as a tandem. And it was Renegade, in my opinion, that had the tougher trip because he had to navigate through a few horses before he got to the clear. Golden Tempo just latched onto him and followed him in the clear. And it's a benefit for Golden Tempo because he had a horse to have, we like to call a target. When a horse has a horse to follow, they have a target. It's easier on the tracking horse than the horse that's on the lead. Why? The horse on the lead is doing the heavy lifting, so to speak. But so often when that horse runs down its target, which is the horse that ended up finishing third in the race, the maiden horse, Ocelli, he might have thought the race was over. There was nobody else left in front of him and could have eased up just a hair, and that gave Golden Tempo the shot to go by him right at the wire and catch him for that nose victory. So I think he turns the tables around. He runs a big race on Saturday. He will not be as far back as he was in the Kentucky Derby.
Sean, let's get into the Derby winner, Golden Tempo. Post 9. This is going to be interesting here. They won the Derby 23-1. They were in dead last. What a trip by that team. Jose Ortiz is going to be riding this horse again. And as we know, Cherie DeVoe was the first female trainer to win the Derby, but she won't be the first female trainer to win the Belmont.
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. I thought Golden Tempo really tripped out in the Derby. If you watch from the break, he really had horses to his outside that needed to be up and near the lead, that jumped out of the gate and just kind of came over on the field. But because Golden Tempo's a little bit slower of a horse out of the gate, they really didn't come down on him, and that just opened up, all of the room all the way to the rail. And he actually had a little bit of help from Ocelli. It looked like he was going to drift out a little bit, and Ocelli kind of moved over and kind of told Golden Tempo, hey, no, we need to go save ground. And Golden Tempo and Jose Ortiz were dead last out of the gate, just trailing the field, but they were cooking up front. They went 46-2, 110-4. I don't think we're going to see those kinds of fractions to run into. And you know what Golden Tempo got out, more than what we saw from Renegade was, Renegade and Irad Ortiz really had to kind of slow down going into the turn and, kind of get off of horses' heels to be able to get off the rail and be able to make that sweeping turn to gun down those leaders. And I thought Irad Ortiz did a great job. But on the flip side of that, Golden Tempo and Jose Ortiz were just about 3 or 4 paths wide. Now, they did swing way out wide coming into the stretch as they needed to, but I thought they did a really good job of saving ground. They didn't get anybody stopping them in front. They got a full head of steam, and I thought that was the difference between beating Renegade. I thought Renegade ran a much better race than Golden Tempo, and Golden Tempo really had it going his own way. And fast forward to this, upcoming Saturday, I just don't see the speed signed up front, or at least the quality of horses that will be on the lead. So I don't see, the 110-4 type of fractions that Jose Ortiz and Golden Tempo need to kind of run down these leaders. And if they do cook up front, I really do think that, Renegade is probably the better closer of the horses. So I don't like the 2-1 odds on Renegade, but if I'm going to go with, a battle between the two deep closers from the Derby who finished 1-2, I'm going to swallow that short price on Renegade, and probably a better trip going up against 8 horses in that full field that we saw in the Kentucky Derby.
We're going to get to those best bets here in just a minute. But before we do, we got to talk about my favorite things. And those are those long shots. You guys have a pair of 12-1 horses. Marco, let's talk about Power Shift at 12-1.
Yeah, this is a horse that's going to get a lot of talk, and you're going to hear the phrase rabbit, okay, that they put this horse in to help Renegade. It's a Todd Pletcher horse. It's a Mike Rapoli horse. But we're going to pump the brakes on that situation because, yes, this is the horse that's probably going to be on the lead in here simply because there's not any early speed in the race. This is not a stone cold pace setter. He has not been on top in all of his races. He's been close to it. And by default, I think he's going to have the lead. But people think they've entered this horse to be a rabbit for Renegade. That's not the case. And what I think is going to end up happening in this race, and why I think he's a live long shot in this race, is the situation that if they leave him alone and he does get to the lead, and there are no other confirmed speed horses in this race, if he gets down to the half in 48 instead of a 50 or a 46 like we saw in the Derby, he could be tough to run down in the stretch. And it'll definitely hurt the chances of the stone cold closers like Golden Tempo. So this is a horse that I definitely think you got to keep on your ticket in your exotics, because if they do go slow fractions, he could hang around for a long time and be a part of the exacta finishing first or second. Definitely can hang around to be part of the trifecta and superfecta finishing third and fourth. So at 12-1, I think this horse is a long shot that you've got to consider in this race, in a race that there really isn't a lot of speed in it.
All right, Sean, you also have a horse that is 12-1 here in Growth Equity. Tell me why you think this horse needs to be in all of your exotics.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with Marco on the number 2 power shift. I believe that he's going to be on the lead, setting up the pace for Renegade. But the problem with that is the jockeys know that Renegade and Golden Tempo are mainly the horses to beat in this race, and they're going to come from flying from way back. So a lot of these jocks most likely are not going to want to go and press the lead, knowing that they really have to save energy in the tank to hold off, the 1-2 finishers in the Derby. And for me, that leaves the 6 Growth Equity with Manny Franco at 12-1, another Chad Brown horse, and we'll get to my best bet, which is another Chad Brown horse. I definitely don't think that he wants Growth Equity and Manny Franco to be up and near power shift on the lead. However, I do think that he's going to get first run on those pace setters, whether that be the number 2 power shift or the 5, kind of battling head to head. And like I had mentioned, a lot of jocks are going to be very conscious of how fast they're going early, when they're going to make their move. They don't want to make their move too soon because they know the Ortiz brothers are going to come flying late. So a lot of them just kind of get too caught up with what's going on behind them, not wanting to go too early. And Manny Franco and Growth Equity might just get first run and just get too far of a lead for some of these closers to come down. So I definitely think 12-1 is a juicy price for a horse that should get first run.
All right, Marco, before we get into your best bet for the 2026 Belmont Stakes, please let me know what you got going on over at wagertalk.com.
Well, Kelly, as you mentioned, we've got the Belmont package. You can pick that up for Saturday. You'll get everything that I have, any other races that I use on Saturday at Saratoga. I'll have it in that package along with my Belmont and all my betting strategies. You'll also pick up some of my sports plays that we have also on Saturday, whatever sport that we are using on Saturday. I'll include it in the package, all for one price. You can save $10 when you use coupon code Belmont10. But if you're brand new to Wager Talk and you've never made a purchase, what a deal we got for you. You can pick up that $39 package for just $2. That's right, just $2. That's the price of a $2 win ticket at the track. Use Belmont2, coupon code Belmont and the number 2. And if you're a first-time buyer at Wager Talk, you get that deal for just $2. Kelly, great way to introduce yourself to horse racing and my sports plays, and we've been running well with our plays, so good time to jump on board. You'll get everything, whatever's going on Saturday: baseball, hockey, basketball, and that basketball includes both NBA and WNBA. Don't forget, we have been absolutely killing the WNBA.
All right, Marco, tell me why we're running it back with Chief Wallabee. You made a hell of a case for this horse in the Derby, and now he's your best bet here in the Belmont.
Yeah, maybe call me stubborn, but you know what? I am somebody that goes back and watches all of the replays. And I've watched this Kentucky Derby replay every which way, isolating each horse, their trip through the Derby. And guys, Chief Wallabee finished fourth. You've got the 4 horses that finished in the top 4 in this race. 2 of them came from way back. The horse that finished third, Oselli, also came from way back, and that was because the front end collapsed. The only 2 horses that you found near the finish line that was involved in anything early, close to those fast fractions, was Dan and Bourbon, the Japanese horse, and Chief Wallabee. And this is a spot where you go back and just isolate Chief Wallabee. Yes, he was running 10th early in that race, but it was a close 10th. He was only a few lengths off of the pace setters. When he went to make his move in the stretch, a lot was made about putting the blinkers on. People didn't want to do that. Horses don't win that make a blinker, add blinkers or take them off for the Derby. And I explained why that wasn't a big deal in this instance. And it wasn't. The horse was ready to go through a hole that would have put him in a winning position. And just as he was about to go through that hole, he got slammed from the outside, got knocked sideways in that spot, lost momentum. In that split second that Junior Alvarado had to settle him, and we call that checking the horse, the hole closed, and he didn't get to go through the hole. He had to wait, and that split second that he had to wait for another hole to open, he had to change course. Instead of going to the right, he had to go back to the inside, to the left. And when he got to the inside and was able to give his horse, Chief Wallabee, his head, and what I mean by that, open him up, let the reins go, he was flying up the rail to finish fourth, only got beat 3 lengths. So to me, he had the most troubled trip, even more so than Renegade. But because of the positioning, I think he's going to be the closer to the pace that's not going to be as fast as it was in the Derby. And with the experience of another race, remember, this is only going to be his 5th career start in a smaller field, not going to have as many horses to navigate through. It's put up or shut up time for Chief Wallabee, and I'm going to be there. He doesn't get the job done here, then that's on him. He won't be getting my money anymore, but he's going to be getting my money on Saturday.
All right, Sean, if people want to understand what you're going to be betting on Saturday, can you give them a preview if they bought your Belmont package, what to expect and where to get it over at wagertalk.com?
Yeah, so we have 14 races on the card. So I will have my opinions about the Belmont race, but I'll also have my top 3 selections for each of the 14 races, not only on Saturday, but each of the races on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, depending on when you're listening or watching this video. But you're going to get my top selections, but you're also going to get my plays. I usually lean on exactas and pick 3s. I'll sprinkle in some pick 4s and pick 5s where I do see value, and maybe lean on a single here and there to cut the ticket price. But like Marco mentioned, use code Belmont10 for $10 off, whether that be my Belmont package on Saturday or even on Friday as well. So use that code Belmont10 for both Marco and my picks. You can use my plays, but you can also use my top 3 selections for any kind of plays that you like to play. If you like to play superfectas or those lottery type pick 6s, I'm giving you my selections and my opinions for each of the races, whether I'm having a ticket on that sequence with you or not. You can smash my opinions or just lean on my plays that will be throughout that 14 race card.
Awesome stuff. Give me some good sound reason why I should be putting my money on Saturday on Emerging Market to win this year's Belmont.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you call Marco stubborn, you're going to have to call me stubborn as well. This is my top pick. I loved Emerging Market coming into the Derby. And, a lot of that reasoning why I liked Emerging Market was how much his trainer, Trad Brown, loved him. He's usually very coy in interviews, and he was gushing in his interviews leading up to the Derby about how much he really liked this horse. And this is a very lightly raced horse. He only had 2 starts going into the Kentucky Derby. But if you look back at his debut over at Tampa Bay, he had a 97 Beyer speed figure in that maiden special weight debut. And that's a big number for a maiden special weight race. And he really did it by making a nice middle move. And not only does that correlate well into this race, but it also correlates well into the jockey that's riding him on Saturday in Flavien Prat. He's got really good hands. He's got a really good, sense of timing, self-timing within to know how fast they're going up front, to know who he has behind him, and to know when to push that button. So I'm not going to jump off this horse. I thought he was way too close in the Derby. He broke a little bit sharper than I expected, probably than Flavien expected as well. But, when you're going up against 18 other horses in a Kentucky Derby type race, you do have to break well. So he broke sharp, probably a little bit too close to the pace. And, he was really just bothered with horses inside of him, with horses and horses outside of him, and just kind of bottled in. And, like I said, with this horse being inexperienced, young horses don't like to be bottled up like that. Marco talked about it with Chief Wallabee trying to go through a tiny hole and just getting stopped. Emerging Market was just kind of sitting in one of those holes the entire time. And, when you're like that, it looked like he was just couldn't settle into his stride, couldn't settle into the race. And, he didn't completely back up, but, like Marco mentioned, he was, involved in that closer to the pace type pace scenario. And they just kind of folded up front, and he was a part of that. So I do like that Emerging Market and Chad Brown is pointing this horse to this race. After he throws in a little bit of a quote unquote clunker in the Kentucky Derby, beaten by 7 lengths in 10th place, you think he'd kind of hang him up, get him back into training. Let's get him back into, his confidence. But immediately after the Kentucky Derby, Chad Brown sent this horse up to Saratoga. He's got 3 published works over the Oklahoma training track. And the last one out, it doesn't look like much on paper, 48-2. But if you look at what other horses did that day, he was second best out of 80 horses. So this horse is still full of himself. I like that Chad Brown pointed him up to Saratoga for the Belmont. And I love that Flavien Prat's sticking around. So I'm going to stick with number 8, Emerging Market at 6-1 as my bet this Saturday.
Hey, Sean, add one thing to you with Emerging Market, because I agree with everything that you said. Don't forget, in the Derby, he threw a shoe, which definitely could have bothered him in deep stretch. If that shoe did not come off clean and he tore the hoof up a little bit, that would also cause him some problems in the stretch. So I can't disagree with you. He'll be on my ticket as well.
That is our 2026 Belmont Stakes preview, and that also wraps up our Triple Crown preview trilogy. Thank you to everyone who watched this video, the Derby, and of course, the Preakness previews. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and of course, drop your Belmont pick in the comments. I'll let you guys argue amongst yourselves. Don't worry, we're going to be live this Saturday on Wager Talk's Last Call. Marco and I will be going over a full day of Belmont coverage, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel.